Hey everybody, welcome back to What the Flick. I'm Matt Atchity, and real quick before we get started, I want to let you know that you can catch this show on the TYT app. You can go to tyt.com/app and download, tytnetwork.com/app and download the app, and you can get all of this great show and other shows on the network in the comfort of your own phone in your own pocket. Pretty cool. So here's why you want the app. Here's why you want to watch the show. Very, very exciting. You know, we have been talking about Westworld all season. Well, today we brought in a very, very special guest. I'd like to introduce Louis Herthum, who has come in to talk to us about the latest episode of Westworld. You know, if you watch the show, the character Abernathy, who may have come to a violent end last night. Joining us today also Kim and John, who've been joining us for these recaps. But Louis, thanks for coming in, man.
My pleasure, man.
I'm glad to see that your head's in better shape than we saw last night. Your shoulders don't look so bad either.
Yeah, I'm healed up. Legs, arms, all that.
So we were talking before the show. You're only getting the scripts that you get, right? Like you're only getting your scenes. You're not knowing anything.
Right. Well, I get in the first season. I actually got, as I recall, just sides. I believe. I wasn't in the first. I got the script for the pilot because I had a lot to do in the pilot. But after that, it was pretty much sides. And then season 2, just the ones I'm in.
Just the ones. Now, is that different? You've been working for a while, right? Like you came up on Murder, She Wrote. Like that was your first. I mean, that was like your big break.
Yeah, it
right.
was.
And worked with the great Angela Lansbury.
Absolutely.
So is that a real different process coming in where you're only getting your pieces?
Yes, it is certainly. Well, when you have a show that's not sort of an anthology where each episode is on its own, which Murder, She Wrote was, it didn't matter so much then, obviously, because I only got the scripts I was in then. But on a show like this, it's different, but at the same time, it really isn't because I don't know what's going on half time anyway. So it's, and Peter only, I'm happy to know what Peter needs to know.
Okay.
For me as an actor, the script is my blueprint. So whatever the script gives me is what I use to do what I do. So if there are other things that are happening that I don't need to know, then I'm okay with it.
So does that make it? I would imagine. Does that even make it easier in a way that you only really need to know what Peter needs to know?
Yeah, probably so. Because if I was trying to figure out everything that's going on when I'm on set, worrying about doing my work, especially some of it's quite challenging, then yeah, that would make things worse. So I was perfectly happy with.
It's not just what Peter needs to know, right? It's the mask version, the Shakespearean quoter, several characters.
Well, So, but those are things that I need to know how to do. Bless you. Those are things that I need to know how to do. So yeah, but just as long as I know what is required of me, I'm happy.
So I was wondering about that, if you'd had access to all the scripts. And I understand with a show that's so largely based around mystery that it makes sense they would do that.
Right.
I imagine that's also true for the other actors. So look, as we go through these episodes, we're attempting to come up with theories. Are you and the other actors doing the same thing?
Not really. I think I've heard. I think James Marsden talks about Evan in season 1, how incredibly astute she was at figuring out what was going on, and she was right like 8 or 9 times out of 10. I didn't do any of that. I did get caught up into some of the theories the first season. I tried to stay away from them this season until they started talking about Delos maybe as Peter Abernathy. Ooh, maybe so, But yeah. So, but no, we don't really discuss it. To be honest with you. I don't, at least. I can't speak for everybody.
What it sounds like is you're getting to find out what's going on in the story kind of in real time like the rest of us, right? Yeah. I know that John and Kim and I were watching it last night, but surely you're getting the episodes ahead of time, right?
No, sir. No.
Wow.
No. I literally did a podcast last night that I watched the episode and literally rushed out of the door to go to and was hoping that, and trying to make sense of. Last night was a real mind twister, at least for me. I mean, following the timelines, I tell people, if you can follow the timelines, you'll have a better chance of understanding what's going on.
We think we figured out the timelines.
Did you?
We think so, but I think last night gets us into this area where in the episode last night where you finally get the room that's full of Bernards,
Yeah.
then you think, oh, well, that could wreak havoc with the timeline completely. And then this morning, a couple of us were talking about, somebody says, well, clearly Peter's dead, right? And I thought, well, no, because we've already seen that there's a bunch of other Bernards. And unless you see the little brain box get crushed or something,
The cupcake.
then, right, unless the cupcake gets destroyed, like maybe he could come back into someone, right? Maybe he comes back and use another body.
You really have to wonder, what does death mean? Does it mean your brain being destroyed? Does it mean your brain being destroyed in a world where there could be multiple copies of your brain as well?
Or
There
living
could
as an
be-
idealized version, as someone else's thoughts of you.
Or one partially embedded in the consciousness of a host, or maybe theoretically even in the consciousness of a human. We haven't seen that yet, but it's not impossible.
Right.
I think that with a show like this where you have so many, so many characters, so many timelines, you have, flashbacks. I mean, who knows? I mean, I like to say you could be dead, but doesn't mean you're gone. I mean, that's what I used to tell people about Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Right. Well,
could be dead.
I have a running joke that I know I've talked to Kim about. Like, nobody ever stays dead in comics or sci-fi unless it's Spider-Man's Uncle Ben and
Thomas,
Bruce Wayne's parents.
Martha.
Right. That's
That's
it.
it.
Everybody else comes back. So, this is a show with a lot of mystery and a lot of speculation, but that's not completely alien to you. Like, you were on True Blood. Do you see that is it a different level of speculation here than it was on True Blood?
Yeah. This is off the chart.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, actually every aspect of this show, the brilliance of it. I mean, it blows my mind. It really does. It makes my brain hurt sometimes. It really does. Trying to
Well,
figure
so much
out.
so that they cut it right out of you.
Hey, we'll take care of that,
better
Louis.
now.
No problem.
Right? All right. Well, so we're going to talk, we'll get into the nitty gritty of the episode, but I have to bring up, you are a car guy. I've heard that you have a 68 Mustang that it was inspired by Bullet. That's
Yes.
one of your favorite movies.
Absolutely. You guys are on it. Huh?
Yeah.
I saw that movie when I was 12 years old when it first came out. My dad took me to see the movie, and I walked out and said, "That's what I want to do when I grow up." And he said, "What do you mean, son?" I said, "I want to drive cars like that and films." And so I wanted to be a stuntman before I became an actor, and all through high school and college, that was the goal. And then I found acting before I started jumping off buildings and driving crazy at 100 miles an hour. But yeah, so I bought the car as a homage.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming in. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into the nitty gritty of this last episode of the Westworld. We're talking about season 2, episode
7?
7.
Seven,
Right?
yeah.
7, called
Los Escorches.
Les Ecorches.
Escorches.
Ecorches.
I can't speak Spanish.
Which, no, it's
it's
French.
French.
In
It's French?
It
Yeah.
means,
Les
the literal translation is the flayed.
Yeah.
As in skin coming off, but also can be used to mean the tormented, and there is plenty of torment in
I think
last
there's
night's
been
episode.
a lot of fire and immolation calls to that. I mean, it seems like we're getting to the end where everything would be needing to be burned. But I love that scene with Bernard and Ford and the forced burning, the
Yes.
immolation. I love that they played Beethoven during that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this plays upon this level of immortality. Because Beethoven, he's a man who's become his music. That's how he lives on forever. And we're doing this back and forth between Bernard and Ford. It was just excellent directing.
So,
Absolutely.
Lewis, we talked before the break that you're only getting the scripts that the only pieces that you're getting, and you're not seeing any of the episodes. So it doesn't do us any good to ask you what in the hell is going on.
No good at all.
Any good theories?
I don't really have a solid theory and would not even begin to want to speculate or get into the brains of the brilliant people that create this, Jonah and Lisa. But I think it's going to be pretty shocking, and it doesn't look good.
No.
It doesn't look good.
I think we got
lost
some-
we lost a lot lot of potential people last night. You know, 4. Really.
Yeah.
Did.
Clementine.
And right.
Right.
Angela.
Oh, that was rough to see.
Who is my
Clementine.
favorite? Look, she's my favorite host. I mean, her work is
I love
amazing.
her.
A couple of episodes ago, she had this little tiny moment in the Mariposa where
Oh,
she saw.
yeah.
She had like 30 seconds on screen. She broke broke my heart.
Yeah.
She's an extraordinary
was
actress.
so
Everybody
good.
is. Yeah.
So good. I think we got a lot of steps forward yesterday, especially as Ford is kind of telling Bernard what's going
Yeah.
on, right? And
I was like, keep going.
Right?
Keep going, Dr. Ford. Tell us.
even though it just raises more questions that okay, so they're studying the guests, not the hosts,
Right.
but why is this some plot that like there's some
But he explained, right? The
Sort
people
of.
want to become their creations.
Right.
But that could come in many different forms.
The people want to be more like the host. That is the goal. Isn't it funny that this whole thing kind of came up right when we find out about the data mining that that Facebook
Yeah.
was doing?
It was just perfect.
Yeah, and you know we shot that
That's true.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
All of that. So, you know, but Westworld is a cautionary tale, I think, without question.
well, so that's one of the things I think, you know, as we talk about what Ford is saying, he'll say something, but I think it leads to more questions, right? So he'll say, okay, the guests want to be like the host, or Delos wants to be more like the host. Does that mean that the construct, the cradle, is some Matrix-like environment where there's a shot at immortality?
I mean, that's the goal. Immortality. I believe that's
But
the
the
goal.
dark side of that is Delos then copying people, and if they get the right fidelity, sending them back out to run the world.
Why not?
Or implanting other
Yes.
humans partially into host brains. I think that one area where we might see something in the next episode is we know that the Man in Black he had that whole process with Delos over the course of possibly decades. We know that he gave up on it at some point, and Ford had referenced that you're gonna have to face your greatest failure. Well, now he's been shot 5 or 6 times, but we're led to believe that he's still alive. You don't come back medically from that. Is it possible that he'll have to undergo some sort of procedure that he knows about but had given up on?
Well, you know, you got to look for these little bits and pieces in the trailers. And do you know what I'm talking about with Man in Black?
I don't
There's
know.
a shot from behind where you see clearly the dress of Man in Black, and you see a revolver go to his head. You haven't caught that?
No, I didn't see that actually.
I didn't
See,
notice
this
that,
is why we
but
bring
I'm
you
glad
on.
you're here
Now,
to
I'm
tell
not
us.
giving any spoilers away because that's in the trailer, and
It
it's got
seems
me
like
wondering.
Everyone is getting drawn to the door, and then everyone has different thoughts of what it is. Ford's idea seems to be enlightenment, and Dolores' idea seems to be a weapon. And the Man in Black, as you said, that's his greatest mistake. It could all mean the same thing.
Well, and I think we're going to find out because it's what Zone 16 sector, or I'm sorry, Sector 16, Zone 4, which we've had hints of previously. That's where they said, oh, that's where everybody's clustered, and then we get what is, I guess, in the future or the present that gets very complicated. But we see all of the bodies, you know, everybody's
Including
drowned,
Teddy.
including
Yeah.
Teddy. And so everybody's drowned, and then we get the scene of the one Merc saying, oh, we're draining the lake, right? And
Yeah.
then there's something about, you know, we had seen Ford talking about, oh, this is the future we're building, like we're digging this big thing. And I love that it adds more questions.
Well, when Williams showed Dolores what looked the same sort of machinery and everything was digging up. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
that's
about?
what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
right. It wasn't Ford, it was William.
Yeah, it was William. Yeah,
Well,
which he
what-
called his biggest mistake.
With Dolores, one mystery that I think is going to be interesting and it involves you directly is we know what some other individuals want your pearl for.
Yeah.
But Dolores wants it. She's going to use it for something. I can't imagine what it is, though. What is she going to
Well,
use
she
it for?
says she thinks it's a weapon, if I'm not mistaken. And the thing that I would say is that all technology, modern and new technology ends up being weaponized some way. I mean, if you think about it.
Right,
And
it's
so-
all in how you use something, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I
exactly.
think it's what the writers clearly have here is whatever that mystery is, it allows for the various characters to come in and project their own desires and hopes and dreams on what that's going to get them. And you know, at least for William, he knows what it is and he knows it's a mistake. And yeah, I was a little disappointed last night to see almost that he was still alive. Like after he's being shot as many times as he did,
Yeah.
I thought that would have been an amazingly bold move to kill off a character like that who's got no, like you would otherwise think has plot armor, right? And he gets shot that many times and then is still breathing. But I thought, God, to have get that invested and then write him off, like Game of Thrones, what?
Yeah.
Well, and they created the symmetry of him ending up in almost the same exact position as Maeve.
Right.
And both of them having potential technological outs to the
There
health
was
situation they're in.
amazing symmetry in this. Like with Angela's last scene, Welcome to Westworld. That's like her opening
Yeah.
thing. It was incredible. My mind has really shifted a lot this season. And a lot of it, well, some of it actually came from a scene you did last night, the I love you, daddy scene, which was when I started, I was questioning, why does Maeve care about her daughter? She's not her real daughter. It doesn't matter. But then, all of us get dropped into families and lives that we didn't necessarily control. That doesn't mean they don't matter. And it was very emotional.
Yeah, those scenes are so emotional to shoot with Evan. She's such an extraordinary actress. And when we get in the same room and we get close to each other, knowing we have to do a scene like that, man, it just, the director, Nicole, in this episode, she's like, save it, guys, save it. And we're like, no problem, it'll be there. But I think when Peter, he has such a strong narrative, for Dolores, every time she's in proximity, he recognizes her. He did in episode 3 and at Fort Forlong, and then again last night. So I guess the draw is powerful even for them.
Well, Louis, we only have a couple seconds left, so I want to thank you for coming in, but I also want to mention you have a movie coming up, right? Later in the year.
Yeah.
With Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp, yeah, it's called, they changed the name of it.
But it's about the Biggie and Tupac murders and the
Whoa.
detective that worked on it, right?
Right,
So we'll keep an eye out for that. So thank you for coming in, Louis, very
pleasure.
much. We really appreciate it. And
guys.
this has been What the Flick. You can follow Louis at Louis_Herthum. And thanks for joining us.